Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over tangents, slope, and how that all kind of relates to each other. So let's say you have a graph and there's a line. Let's say you know that this point is, I don't know, 3, 2. And this obviously is 0, 0. So you know 2 points that this passes through. So without just looking at like the lines and finding like the rise over run, you can figure out the slope just by using like slope formula. So I'll just go through the 2 ways to find the slope of this line anyways. So if you know that this goes over 3 and up 2, because that's an x and a y, so this is the x and this is the y, you could do rise over run, so that would be 2 over 3, which would be your slope. If it's more complicated numbers, you don't have to do that. You could, or if you don't have, like, if you're just given 2 points, you could do, so it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So in this case, if this is our number 1 and this is our number 2, we can do 2 minus 0 over 3 minus 0, which is 2 over 3, which gives us the same answer. So whichever way you want to find the slope that way works. Basically, what a tangent is, you have to take into consideration the angle. So it would be like finding like side lengths by using an angle instead of using like a Pythagorean theorem or things like that. So if you have this triangle, which we know is 3 by 2, and this is your x, this angle is theta. I got a submission that someone didn't know what theta was. Theta is a Greek symbol. It just is like a placeholder for an angle. So whenever you are talking about angles, you'll probably use theta or another Greek symbol. It's basically like x and y, just in your case, it's going to be used for an angle. So tangent of an angle, that's what theta means, so this is an angle, is equal to opposite over adjacent. And I know that like a lot of you guys might not have done like opposites, adjacents, that kind of stuff in a while, so I'll just explain that really quick. So what they mean by opposite is the angle, is the side that's not touching the angle. So that would mean that 2 is your opposite side, because it's not touching your angle at all, because your angle is right here and this side length's not even close. So and your adjacent is going to be your other side that is actually touching the angle. So if you had an angle up here, for example, your adjacent would be this 2 and your opposite would be this 3. And then later, when you do more trig formulas and stuff, you're going to have to deal with the hypotenuse. So just really quick, the hypotenuse is the longest side, and it's the one that's opposite of the right angle. So in this case, x is our hypotenuse. Pause. Sure. Yeah, I'll have quesadilla. I thought like barely
I
kicked some.
you know, I texted you, but I can hear that you're busy. Yeah, I texted you, you're busy, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do this because Warren is making now. But then, in a few minutes, take a break. Come and eat,
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
come and get it. You know,
Oh.
so, baby, yeah. Yeah.
Bye, Bo. I'm sorry. Resume. So, the first thing you're going to want to do in a situation like this, so you know what opposite and adjacent are, and your goal is to find the angle. Now, I don't think you guys have learned how to do that yet, but this is what this means. So let's say, let's forget this triangle. You have, oh, that's a terrible triangle. Let's say you have this triangle and your angle that you're given is, I don't know, let's say 32 degrees. And you need to find, let's say you need to find this side. You don't care about the hypotenuse because you're learning tangent right now, so I'm just going to leave that. So, oh, also this, opposite over adjacent, that's the tangent ratio. So, like you have a slope ratio, which is your rise over your run. The opposite over adjacent is your tangent ratio, just in case you need a clarification on that. So let's say this is x and this is, I don't know, 15. So we can basically just plug in what we have into this formula. So tangent of the angle we're given, which is 32 degrees, equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 15. So what you'd want to do is, and I did get a question on how to put like tangent stuff into a calculator. So first what you have to do is you have to find the tangent button. So it should just say tan. And then you'd put your angle, so whatever angle that is. So you'd put 32 in this case scenario, and then you just press enter, and then you get your thing. See, when you get something like this, you know it's wrong. Because if you look really closely, you can see that there's an R right there, and that means that you're in radians. Now, if you're doing, since this was given to you in degrees, then you want to put your calculator into degrees. So how you do that is you go to mode, which I don't know how it is. I'm not sure how it is on your calculator, but on this one it's shift and then this setup button. So you need to like change the mode of your calculator, but it's actually not mode, because if you just press this, because it's like the white one, you get to that and that's not what you want. So you need to go to mode or setup or whatever button it is until you can find where it says degrees, radians. Just if anyone's curious, radians is, I don't know if you've heard older kids talk about it, unit circle, but radians has to do, it's like a different way to talk about angles, but you're not going to use that until pre-calc or integrated 3 enhanced. So unless you're planning to go those paths, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that your calculator is in degrees. So on this one, I'm just going to press 3. And then if you look up there now, instead of saying R, it says D. So that means that it's in degrees now. So now we can do tangent of 32 equals 0.62. See, and that would be what the correct measurement is, because you're measuring this in degrees, so your mode has to be in degrees. So that would mean that 0.62, I'll just do 3 decimal places, 625 equals x over 15. So then if you want to get x alone, you'd have to multiply both sides by 15, and let's just go up here and do that. So this times 15 is 9.373 approximately, which is equal to x. So this would be your answer for as to how to find x, and you would do the same thing. Let's say this side was missing, your adjacent would just be your x. So that's basically how to do tangents and slope ratios and that kind of thing. And you'd use tangent to find missing angles and missing sides and that kind of stuff. And I know some people have learned SOHCAHTOA, but you just have to remember, if you haven't learned SOHCAHTOA yet, it doesn't matter, but if that's how you remember it, that's also an okay way to remember this. But just remember the tangent of theta, theta being an angle, and it's the angle that you're given, is opposite over adjacent. And your opposite is the side that's not connected to the angle, and your adjacent is the side that is connected to the angle. And it has nothing to do with the hypotenuse, and you guys should know what the hypotenuse is by now, and if you don't, then that's probably an issue. But so that's how you find that. And then your slope ratio is like the slope of your line. So these two things are not the same thing. So don't get tangent ratio and slope ratio confused, because they are completely separate. They're separate entities. They don't work together, or at least just yet. So there's the two ways you can find the slope ratio, and then there's the way that you find the tangent ratio. So